So this is a kit, and you'll notice where the pivots are located on these objects in Maya, okay? And I've got the UVs laid out a certain way and all of that, okay? And you'll notice that on the hypershade, I've named them M. This is before I switched to MI when I built this, okay? So I really need to change all of these to MI. I'm like, oh.
Just the way to do it. Change it all.
So what, you think I can just grab all of these in here like this and then come over to this thing that I showed you before? Is that what you're talking about?
Now I guess.
Right. But what about this? Do you see how I did that? Do you want me to do it again? It's recorded, but so I selected everything in the that I wanted to change the name. Okay. I went to edit. Or no, is it modify? It's modify, search and replace names. I typed in, it was M before, and then search for M underscore, and then replace with MI, and then I chose selected as opposed to all. So in case there was anything else that was M underscore, it's not going to change it. And then I just hit apply, and it did it. Now I don't have to manually do that from scratch because thank God, right? And now I'm actually going to save this as a Maya file so that I have it. Okay. Um, and you'll notice how the door doesn't line up with the door jamb. Then that's totally fine because I want the reason I've set that pivot there. You'll notice that all of my pivots and all of my stuff is set to 0 and it's it's frozen. Okay. So this is all pretty good. I'm going to re-export all of these as an FBX. And I'm going to turn all that off, port selection, and I'm going to redo it just so that I've got it. Okay, great. So now I've re-exported that. So this this is what a project or how a project should be. All Unreal projects where you're doing a film should be organized. Okay. So I want to start here and just kind of have you look at the directory structure. You'll notice there's something called I'm putting numbers in front of them. 0, 0, it's on Zoom, dude. 0, 0 underscore what, 0, 1 underscore what, 0, 2 underscore what. The reason I do this is because you remember when we imported the stylized room, it just brought in a folder called stylized room. Well, if you put the numbers in front, this thing sorts alphanumerically. So the folders that you create, these primary folders, if you import anything else, these will always be on the left. So the reason I did that in the nomenclature was to force it so we always know where those are. Okay. Um, inside assets, these are placeholder folders. These are template folders, meaning when you bring in an asset that is a character, how do you think you name it? How do you name the folder? Underscore the name of the character, right? What about like a set that you've built or a prop that you've built? Okay, okay. So this is just a template. You don't, right? So you would name the folder or duplicate the folder or whatever, name it, make a new one, name it that. And then when you go to import, right? So like for instance, See when it was selected what it did though? When you have a folder selected and you right click and you go new folder, it will actually make a folder inside that folder. All right. Right click. I'm going to duplicate it. Will let me. See, won't let me. See that? Look at that. You can't dupe it. So new folder, env, walls. All right. Then I'm going to double click in here and I'm going to go import and it'll bring it in. All right. And before I do that, I want to show you something else. Inside here, I have copied over a master material. Okay. You'll notice it says M underscore tile base. Okay. And there's some default textures in here and there's some default material functions, which I can explain much later. This is what this is a normal shader tree. This is a good basic like material instance. Okay, or material, master material. All right. This is normal. This is roughness, metallic, displacement, whatever. This is the material function that controls UVs. This right here is something special that I added to mess with things. This is the color, this is the specular, and this is the emissive. Okay. When I make a material instance of this, so if I come in here and I go material instance, I'm going to say mi underscore testy. Fuck off. Okay. And I double click it. Notice there's nothing in it. It's completely blank. If I right click on this and I go create material instance, you'll notice it goes mi tile base. It's M, sorry. Mi. So I'm going to go mi and I double click on it. Whoa, it looks different. I have all of these attributes that I've built and set up that I can control. There's the texture maps. Okay. This is what I was talking about when I was talking about materials. I set up all that nodal coding so that I have something that I can alter and adjust. Does that translate roughly? Okay. What's cool about this? See this right? It's, oh yeah, it's right. It's this one. So if I go into here and I go down, see it says parent right here? Parent. If I come over here and I just like, oh, I pick it, now it has the same one. But what's cool is, and it's all based off of the same master, but they're different attributes, controllable attributes. Make sense? Okay. All right. Just so everybody gets a general understanding of how that works. Okay. Or maybe we're going to crash. That could be cool. No. Okay. So I'm going to delete these because I don't want them. All right. So when I go to import the walls, okay, hit import. And I'm going to go to my physical wall, which is in my asset library. It's going to load this up. This is the import window, and there's a lot of options here for lots of crazy shit. Okay. There's two that I want you to pay attention to for importing static meshes, which is what the walls are. Okay. One is combine static meshes. This is unchecked by default. So when you bring something in so in Maya, it's not actually it's not actually one node. Like think about a character that's got multiple, like my hat, my skin, my shirt, they're all different meshes. And I import that in, it's going to give me a separate static mesh file for the hat, for my skin, for my shirt. Okay. If I don't want that, you click combine static meshes and it'll bring it all in as one static mesh. Sometimes you want to do that, sometimes you don't. Okay. So there's that one. And then the other one is way down here under materials. And this is the most important for the moment. I want you to note this thing that says material import. By default, it says import as materials. You don't want that. If you have a master material in the scene, you do not want that. Okay. If you go import as material instance, it goes, ooh, parent material. I can now click on the none. And if I have a ton of materials in here, it'll show up and I pick the one I want. I want to use tileable base. Okay. You have that selected and I hit import. Notice what it just did. Yep. So now I've got several wall instances. So if I double click on this is called the static mesh editor. All right. So you can review what static meshes look like. You can change things. You can enable nanite support. You can turn off nanite support. This will become very important when we start dealing with ray trace shadows, and you might get weird errors because there's a few bugs with it where it doesn't always like ray trace shadowing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it not. So you can just turn off nanite support, and oftentimes that fixes the problem. Okay. Um, which is fine. You can also change on this mesh specifically, like you could change the material instance just on this mesh. And then any mesh that's derived from any instance in here that's derived from this, it would change that. Okay. Does that make sense? So if I change it here in the static mesh editor, every duplicate of the window will be different. Okay. Okay. If I change it inside the editor and not in the content browser, like assigning a different material instance to it, it won't affect. It'll only affect that. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. So turning off nanite, that's one of the more important ones. Sure, that's fine. All right. So here you've got a previous folder. You'll notice levels, sequences, assets, animation. For our purposes, um, for this homework assignment, you don't have to worry about the previous folder. Shots, same thing. You don't have to worry about this folder, but we'll talk about this next week. Okay. I'm just focused solely on the materials folder and the assets folder. Inside each asset folder, okay, when I import that in, these don't have textures. Okay. But if, for instance, there was a specific texture that was that like I created the texture in Substance or whatever, I would import them into this folder with the asset. So everything that involves that asset is in that folder. Does that make sense? So specific textures, and if you wanted to make a subfolder in here, it was like textures for that asset, that's fine. Like Bobby underscore textures or whatever, that's fine so that you have it further organized so you're not looking at a ton of things. Okay. Um, but it should be underneath the asset if you've done specific textures for it. If it is a universal texture that you want to be able to access for any object in the project, it goes in master materials, uni textures. And so here's where I start making folders to organize. And you'll notice that I did a thing where I did T underscore so I could filter for those folders. So I know that those are all texture folders. So you could also do that too in the assets. Might make it easier to find. All right. So universal textures would go here. Cool? Make sense? All right. So let's say I want to import um uh so I want to make a new material instance for my walls. Well, here's all these, right? So I'm going to make a new level. It's like, where would I put my levels? How would I build my levels? Where would my levels go to build? Would I just build them out here? You could. But the way of thinking about this is, what am I about to assemble? I'm going to build a room, right? Set. Okay. So what would that be? So I'm going to make a new folder, ENV living room. And inside this living room, I'm going to make a new level, L underscore, I might call it living room set. Okay.
Even though it's in asset.
Yeah. Because, because I can, I can, that living room set, I could have a living room set level that has clean textures. I could then duplicate the level, change the textures in the new duplicate, and it's called dirty. Or I can change the orientation of the furniture, right? So now I've done my initial dress, my initial set dress, right? So in one scene, the room is perfectly clean or whatever, right? And then we're in the living room, everything's great. And then they go away, and then they come back later that night, and the house is trashed, right? So it's two separate sets that are based off the initial dress, right? So I do my initial dress, I do that, I get it right, I'm happy with it, my base dress. I duplicate that level, and then I name it messed up living room, and I open that level and I mess up the living room, and then I just bring that level in when I'm going to into my shot when I'm going to use it. Does that make sense? So you have to think about levels as kind of like, again, buckets or spaces. So even though this is going to be completely blank, all right, and you're like, dude, you didn't give me a floor. Put it at 0. You're like, I can't see. See this basic shape material that's on this? Oh, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab one of these, and it really doesn't matter which one this is. I'll grab this. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to duplicate it. And then I'm going to call this MI floor, and I'm going to drag and drop it right there. Okay. And so now I've got my floor. And if I were to bring in like a wall, put it at 0. See, that's why you set your pivot that way, so you can makes life a hell of a lot easier, right? Okay. So what I tend to do when I'm working these kinds of things is now I'm going to open this up and I'm going to change its color tint when I'm doing like a previs. Great. And what I might do here is instead of having two of these up, I might dock this window. I might split my view up or put it on the other monitor. And I tend to minimize this thing and focus on this because I can interactively see what I'm doing over here. Okay. Now, what's interesting about this object is what I want you to notice is you can't see it right here because it's unlit, but it has two materials on it. There's the wall and then there's the molding. So if I double click that, it's going to show up over here. And I can control, you know, this. Well, if I bring in another wall, notice, see how it's changed it on the static mesh down here? If I duplicate this wall, it's going to be green. Well, what if I want the wall to have another color? What would I do? So I'm going to grab plain wall. I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to call it blue wall. And then on this wall, you can literally just drag and drop. Now, if you drag and drop here, it might get it right. Sometimes it finds it, sometimes it doesn't. And I'm going to change it to blue. Oh, no, it was the wrong one because I forgot to open it up. Yeah, yeah. So this is pretty easy to kind of set up and control. Okay, is this making sense? All right. So you have to think modularly when you're trying to decide, well, what if I want a texture on this floor, right? Like how do I get a texture in here? All right. Well, I'm going to go back to content, master materials, unitexture, and I'm going to make a folder. And I'm going to call this room textures. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to look up. Great. And you're going to want something that is square, obviously, right? Great. I like this. I'm going to save this image. So where do you put these? Aha. Where do you save this stuff? Because it's got to be outside of Unreal and then you have to import it into Unreal. Okay. So my advice for the project you're going to be working on then is when you go to classes and then you go to your VizII, student work, your folder, you're going to make a new project. You're going to call it rooms. And in here, you're going to make a new folder. You're going to call it textures. And you're going to name it what it is. Oh my God, I don't even know how to spell parquet. Anybody know how to do it? Okay, well, it's a Q. It's QUE. Yeah, it's QUE. That's right. All right, there we go. Parquet floor. Great. Save. All right. And now I'm going to then go back here and I'm going to type Tile textures, wallpaper. You could also make these in, obviously in, um, that's really, really ugly. I love it. So let's save this image because it's ugly. And okay. And if you know you're gonna do lots of wallpaper, be specific if possible. Ooh, this one's really great. I like this one too. Let's do this one. Usually you should do that. Ooh, it's got a watermark on it. Hey, look at that. All right. This I might leave maybe. If as long as it's not numbers. Okay, so now that I have those, I'm going to import them. File, import. I'm going to navigate to my project. Blah. I'm going to select them both. I'm going to open. Now, I want to put color on this floor. I'm looking for base color. It's right there. Oh, did I not get the floor? I didn't bring the floor in either. Damn it. Where did I put the floor? Did I not save the floor? That was stupid, Jason. Uh, figures. Figures I would do something dumb. All right, fine. All right, not free pick. Gross. Huh? Do I have a tab already open for it? I don't think I do. No, I don't. I closed it. Oh, yes, I did. There it is. Thank you. All right. Well, good enough. Okay. Open. So I turn this on. If I grab this texture and I drag and drop it there, it'll show up. Now, I wasn't on the floor. I was on the wall. So it's kind of important. You're like, dude, that's a really big parquet floor. How do I change it? Well, on the master material, you'll notice there's a UV tile amount. Okay. Is this making sense what I'm doing? All right. So same thing with the wallpaper. Now, what's interesting about this, the way I've done this, is wait a minute, that was green. Why is it blue? I've set up modifiers on the material to allow me to be able to desaturate, change all kinds of stuff. Oh, is that broken? Should work. Oh, might be broken. It might be broken. I might have to fix it. Okay. You should be able to rotate it though. Um, anyway, so general idea makes sense? Okay, great. So what you guys are going to do is for your homework assignment, and I'll stop this for now.